Presidential Commission decides to undertake a site visit to observe tomorrow's Treasury bond auction. Letter reveals that the President recommended Mohandan Kanage be only appointed as a director of ICTA. Van used by suspects to flee after ambushing the Kaluthar President's transport found. Ranjan and Anuruddha clash at the Regional Development Committee meeting.
A very good evening to you and welcome to tonight's edition of Primetime News. I'm Krishnandi Visagayam.
And I'm Aishwarya Pinto. Let's start off with a look at your stories in detail. The opening session of the workshop on Sustainable Finance 2017 got underway today under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena.
Experts in the field, including senior officials of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, were present at the occasion. 2017 was declared as the year to eliminate poverty because nearly 30% of our population are facing poverty and severe economic instability. Especially as a state which provides welfare and the economic policies it follows, we cannot distance ourselves from our public welfare activities. I firmly believe that through this workshop, you will take a successful step to fulfill the Sustainable Development Goals and its national program with the guidance of international experts.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka joined the Sustainable Banking Network last year. As a new member, we have the opportunity to learn from the lessons and experiences from other countries and to determine our own path in sustainable finance through accelerated actions. In Sri Lanka, His Excellency the President has put sustainability at the heart of economic development. The central bank's vision is to play a catalytic role in fostering an environmentally and socially responsible banking sector.
Newsfirst is in possession of a letter from the Presidential Secretariat which contains President Maithripala Sirisena's express recommendation that current CEO of the ICTA, Mohandan Kanage, is to be appointed only as a director.
The letter dated 26th January 2016 had been sent by the Presidential Secretary to the Secretary of the Ministry of Telecommunication and Digital Infrastructure. The letter reads that the President had granted permission for Mohandan Kanage to serve only as a director of ICTA. Mohandan Kanage continues to function as the CEO of ICTA, regardless of the fact that this letter approves his appointment only as a director. February 2016, Loon Balloon launched with the aim of providing island-wide high-speed Wi-Fi. 17th February 2016, the balloon launched by the ICTA headed by its CEO Mohandan Kanage crashes in Kampala. 29th July 2015, ICTA CEO Mohandan Kanage signs MOU with Google Vice President Mike Cassidy to establish 10,000 Wi-Fi hotspots around the country by launching 13 Google Loon balloons around the island nation. 8th April 2016, following the failure of the project, media informed that the project was handled by the Rama Corporation. 25th October 2015. The Sunday Times reports that CEO of ICTA Mohandan Kanage has said he would voluntarily quit by the end of 2016 if the country did not significantly improve its connectivity and or digital infrastructure. Civil organizations allege there's an attempt to purchase Sri Lanka's spectrum through the Rama Corporation. Directors of the Rama Corporation revealed shareholders of Rama Corporation are P. Sivaganathan and Malaka Chamida Bandara Thalwatha, who is held accountable for projects undertaken while serving in positions casting aside the recommendations made by the President of the country.
The People's Intellectual Assembly convened a media briefing today.
Following the Mohandan Kanage expose, it is evident that theft had been committed from the very beginning. The original appointment and the recommendations for the appointment have been violated. The Board of Directors have made this appointment by casting aside all procurement procedures. We raised this matter and we said that it was wrong. Now this has been directed to the attention of the President, where the President himself says that it is wrong and the process is wrong. This needs to be investigated. They have put aside the President's instructions and given the appointment so that they can sell off the country's resources. This group is attempting to take control of the spectrum and sell it back to us.
In a story that made it to the headlines this evening, now members of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to investigate and inquire into the issuance of Treasury bonds has decided to make a site visit to observe the Treasury bond auction scheduled for tomorrow at the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
Dr. M.E.Z.M. Azim, who served as the additional superintendent of the Public Debt Department during the time period of the impugned Treasury bond auction, provided evidence before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to investigate and inquire into the issuance of Treasury bonds today. Dr. Azim currently serves as the additional director of the Statistics Department of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Speaking before the Commission, Dr. Azim said that on the day before the 27th of February 2015 bond auction, the Central Bank's Domestic Debt Department Management Committee had convened. He added that on the morning of the 24th of February 2015, the Monetary Board had made a request to issue the bonds for a 30-year maturity period, adding that the Monetary Board requested for the auction to take place on that very week itself. Thereafter, the Commission decided to move time to lead evidence as documents pertaining to the matter only arrived today, and proceedings were rescheduled for Thursday, the 2nd of March 2017, since the Commission had decided to make a site visit to the Public Debt Department tomorrow. This morning, Dr. H.S. Samaratunga, the Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, providing evidence before the Commission, said that the press statement issued by the Ministry of Finance relating to the impugned gazette had been sent by the Media Secretary to the Finance Minister. Responding to a question raised by Additional Solicitor General Yasantha Kodagoda, Dr. Samaratunga said that he had no doubt on the validity and legality of the Treasury bonds issued by the government.
Addressing a public meeting in Diathalawa this morning, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa commented on the Gazette notification which was issued containing his name in relation to the bond transactions.
The government printer had made a statement. They attempted to put the sum of 10 billion rupees, which was the money defrauded from the bond scam, into our shoulders and the Mahinda Rajapaksa era. But I wasn't there on the 8th of January. So a gazette that should have been issued in 2015 is released in November 2016, 1.5 years later. So this gazette has been issued with the attempt to portray as if the debt was obtained during my term. So it is no surprise that Ranil gets nauseous. Now they are trying to prevent this from being exposed. But fortunately the President appointed a commission. So this was in fact exposed through this commission. We should actually be thankful to the President, because if not for the appointment of this commission, in time they will use this Gazette notification as proof to show that we were the ones who did it. No one will try to challenge the Gazette notification.
Now, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. W.A. Vijayawardena, speaking in Colombo yesterday, elaborated on the first bond scam that took place in February 2015.
Perpetual Treasuries purchases a share for 70 rupees and sells it at that very moment to 3 other companies for 85 rupees. The 3 companies sell it to the Employees Provident Fund for 90 rupees. The next day the price drops to 70 rupees again. Then the EPF has suffered a loss of 20 rupees per share. The total loss has been calculated but has not been announced. I will not repeat myself, but it is a monumental loss. Because of this scam, the good faith in the markets has been tarnished. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka is continuously suffering from this. Following the expose of the impugned gazette recently, the good name of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has been tarnished to levels beyond imaginable. A negative factor is that FDIs or foreign direct investments do not flow into the country. Many foreigners invested in our securities to the tune of $4.5 billion. This dropped to $1.5 billion by January 2015. 3.2 billion rupees had been taken away from the country. This has resulted in the depreciation of the rupee, where a dollar is valued at 155 rupees. If the remaining 1.3 billion are taken away, we cannot predict to which level the rupee will fall thereafter. This happened as the correct decision was not taken at the correct time.
Dr. W.A. Vijayawardena was speaking at the event held to launch the book Bandumkara Amdaraya, penned by senior banker Rusiripala Thenakon yesterday. Civil and political activists as well as journalists were present for the event.
The Daily FT reports that the country is facing a serious economic crisis. The report reads that this is the result of the Department of Inland Revenue implementing the IFP recommendations through institutions such as McKinsey as an implementing body.
The article goes on to say that the past 18 months have been possibly one of the darkest and bleakest periods in recent times for Sri Lankan businesses and entrepreneurs. It adds that the legislation of an IMF-drafted taxation policy is planned to come into effect from the 1st of April 2017. It goes on to say that other than discussions in the past few weeks at a chamber level, Sri Lankan businesses and the public have very little knowledge of the imminent legislation. The author goes on to note that the country may need the IMF money, but it does not have to blindly accept a proposal which appears to be similar to the one they proposed for Ghana. Daily FT adds that Sri Lanka does not necessarily need McKinsey to implement programs when it has public servants who are perfectly capable if they are empowered. It adds that the country does not need politicians who make decisions in their own interest, rather in the interest of the nation, adding that it is time we identified the good from the bad and filtered them. The author of the article is listed as a special correspondent. Day 2 of the 34th regular sessions of the United Nations Human Rights Council commenced in Geneva, Switzerland today. Addressing the session today, Minister of Foreign Affairs Mangala Samravira expressed the following views.
The forces of extremism and regression on both sides of the divide are creating roadblocks for narrow short-term political gain. While stubbornly refusing to acknowledge any of the far-reaching gains we have made in the last 2 years, they argue that we have either done too much or too little. We also expect the draft legislation on the Truth-Seeking Commission to be presented to the Cabinet of Ministers within the next 2 months, and our restoring justice to the victims of human rights violations remains firm. While taking the allegations of continuing incidents of torture seriously, it is reiterated that the government maintains a zero-tolerance policy towards torture. Mr. President, the constitutional drafting process is for us both central and essential, not only for democratization, but also for ensuring non-recurrence of conflict. As we approach, as I said earlier, the 70th year of our nation's independence, we seek for the first time in our country's modern history to engage in this process wholeheartedly as an exercise that would unite our people who have been divided for far too long. The parliamentary process and referendum which would follow are for us imperative. This may be a journey strewn with both success as well as some setbacks. In the face of roadblocks and other obstacles in the day-to-day world of realpolitik, there may have been certain detours from time to time, but the destination and our resolve to walk the distance will remain unchanged.
Chief Justice K. Sripavan retired from the post today.
The retiring Chief Justice met with President Maithripala Sirisena earlier this afternoon. Presidential media reported that a memento was presented to the retiring Chief Justice for his service. Meanwhile, the Constitutional Council today recommended Senior Judge of the Supreme Court, Prasad Depp, to the position of the 45th Chief Justice of Sri Lanka. Deputy Speaker of Parliament Thilanga Sumathipala confirmed that the Constitutional Council made this recommendation. Thereby, based on the recommendation of the Constitutional Council, President Sirisena will appoint the new Chief Justice.
A media briefing on National Movement for a New Constitution was convened by civil activists today.
The general public saw the powers an executive president possesses, and that is why the public objected it and called the authorities to abolish it. It was mentioned in the Constitution as well. As the first step, we have created a culture through the 19th Amendment. As the second step, let us create a well-improved new Constitution by obtaining the necessary factors from the 19th Constitutional Amendment and factors from several other places. We will get together to make this the main topic in the country. Let us make it our duty. The country needs a new constitution. That is very clear. The executive presidency should be abolished in the new constitution. We also need a new election system. A system should be created centering reconciliation. The constitution should consist of how to reaffirm the judiciary. There is no argument in that. The reports of the 6 subcommittees that were appointed have been presented. Prepare proposals to bring forward a new constitution to see a transformation in parliament.
A tense situation arose when a question on the central bank bond scam was raised.
This media briefing is regarding a new constitution. Let's only talk about that. The biggest crisis is creating a new constitution to the country. That is why we established this movement. Let us conclude this discussion now. Thank you.
This was a response made by two individuals who called themselves a civil activist and a journalist to the question raised on the central bank bond scam. I'm from Sirasa. Will you give me some time now? They were discussing about abolishing the executive presidency. When that was the main topic, we should also talk about the positive and negative impacts of it. Will you agree with me about the central bank crisis?
The Dewlapitia Development Committee meeting was held at the Divisional Secretariat today. A tense situation erupted when Deputy Minister Ranjan Ramanayake questioned officials on land excavations in the area. The situation escalated with the intervention of parliamentarian Indika Anuruddha.
They're excavating here in an illegal manner. However, the police is not able to give a clear estimate on how much earth is excavated.
But what if the public complains about this, saying that tipper trucks are driven in front of their houses and that sand is being transported in the middle of the night? Can't you do something about it? Can't you find out how much is permitted?
Even though certain people may furnish information to the media, there are no statistics anywhere to prove if they excavated 50,000 or 60,000 loads.
The van believed to be used by the gunman to flee after launching an ambush on the Kaluthara prison transport was found abandoned in the Moragahahena area today. 5 inmates, including notorious underworld figure Aruna Udayashanta alias Samyang, as well as 2 prison officers, were killed in the ambush that took place yesterday.
The van was located this morning not far from the Moragahahena junction. The police canine unit was called into the location to locate the suspects, and the hounds proceeded to an old rubber factory in the area. It has been revealed that the van in question had been stolen from Maradana over a month ago. Police said that the van belonged to 2 persons from Colombo, and the van had been stolen after feeding the driver with a meal containing a sleeping drug. Police said that they recovered 17 sets of fingerprints from the van. CCTV cameras also captured footage of the van believed to be used by the suspects to flee. Our correspondents reported that the bodies of the slain inmates were handed over to their relatives this afternoon. The slain inmates were Aruna Udayanta alias Samayan, Chalana Tilak, Amila Prasanna Sampath, Kalum Priyankara and Suranga Prasanna. When a suspect is arrested by the police and produced to court and is thereafter sentenced to remand prison or given a separate punishment, the Department of Prisons is vested with the sole responsibility over the security of the suspect. Especially when a remanded suspect is being transported from the prison to court, the Prisons Department is bound to protect the suspects and provide adequate security. If the Department of Prisons is unable to do so, the department has an ability of working with the police and obtain assistance of Sri Lanka police.
ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් පොලිස් දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ අවශ්‍ය සහයෝගය ලබා ගන්න. විශේෂ ආරක්ෂණයක් යනකොට අපි
when special security is provided, we make the request for the deployment of police officers. If there isn't sufficient number of officers, they inform us about that. At such times, we deploy extra personnel for security. That is the practice in the Department of Prisons. All these suspects are facing the same case. That is why all of them were put in the prison's bus to be taken to the Kaduwela court. He had threats from other underworld figures incarcerated in prisons in Colombo, and that is why he was transferred to Kaluthara. The prisons department has provided maximum security. A prison officer who faced this ambush elaborated on what transpired yesterday.
The 17th memorial of Takiko Yoshida, the founder of the Yoshida Foundation, was held today.
The ceremony, which got underway under the auspices of the chairman of the Sri Lanka Mahabodhi Society, Venerable Banagala Upadisatera, was held at the Yoshida Foundation premises in Sapukaskamda. Minister of Telecommunication and Digital Infrastructure Harwin Fernando and several others were present at the event. We are not doing this for show. Ranil Wickramasinghe may recall the state of these premises back then, because it is in the Sapukaskamd area that he commenced his political career. I am saddened by the fact that the various persons that we send to Parliament neglect us. I think the act of commemoration and paying tribute is something that needs to be appreciated. At a time when the people have forgotten what they obtained, it is important that we remind these acts to our children and move ahead.
Edward Snowden has tweeted that the families who sheltered him are reportedly being sought by Sri Lanka's CID. However, Sri Lanka police denies these claims.
International media reported that the Sri Lankan asylum seekers living in Hong Kong fear they are being illegally pursued by police after sheltering the US whistleblower Edward Snowden in the city. Reports quoting their lawyers say that criminal investigators from Sri Lanka are believed to have visited Hong Kong looking for them. The lawyer representing the men, Robert Thibault, said at least 2 officers from the Criminal Investigations Department of the Sri Lanka Police visited Hong Kong in December looking for them. When contacted, police media spokesperson Priyantha Jayakodi said that Sri Lankan law enforcement agents did not visit Hong Kong.
Both allegations were totally denied by the Sri Lanka police, and as well as the Criminal Investigation Department. No any Criminal Investigation Department officer except one ASP who visited Hong Kong during the last November 28 till December 2nd for an Interpol conference. No any CID officer visited Hong Kong in the official capacity. So many instances we have come across. The lawyers representing these asylum seekers are in a habit of making these sort of allegations against the law and order maintaining officers in order to strengthen their clients' versions. We strongly suspect sometimes this also may be this type of issue. If they make any allegation, they should have made any specific allegation. They should have said that this particular officer visited Hong Kong. If they submit those details with the very specific identity, we can make inquiries.
Well, on that note, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. It was a pleasure having you with us. Now, for the details of these stories and much more, you can simply log on to our award-winning website, www.newsfirst.lk.
Well, that's it for tonight. I'm Aishwarya Pinto.
I'm Krishan Devasagan. Take care. Good night.
Good night.